Alright, we are once again talking about Major League teams playing in minor league or other non-MLB cities. In case you missed it, a couple weeks ago I put out a video arguing why every MLB team should play a few games every year away from their home city, like they do in Japan, to bring the game to smaller cities that don't feel any real connection to Major League Baseball. And the comments on that video were all positive on the idea. Link in the description if you haven't seen that one yet. But I spent the whole video arguing in favor of the idea, and leaving it open as to what cities each MLB team should play in. There are some good ideas in the comments, and I've got some good ideas of my own. So today we're scheduling home away from home games for all 30 MLB teams. Of course, the easiest way to do this would be to have every team play 1 to 2 games in each of their minor league ballparks, from AAA all the way down to low single A. That would not only be too easy, but it would force several teams to play home games in faraway cities, where local residents root for another closer team. And there are some big towns with no MLB affiliated teams that would be left out. So the teams here will mostly be playing close to home where they're most likely to have the support of the city's fans. But in the case of AAA cities, each team will play in its own affiliate AAA park. I just can't imagine one major league team moving into another team's AAA city and calling it home for a day. So in some cases, teams will be playing in a home far from home. That will be unavoidable in those cases. What I wanted to do here was have 5 home games in non-MLB cities for each of the 30 major league teams. But I found that hard to do. Some teams have a number of cities in their area they can play in. Other teams not so many, so the number of cities will vary from team to team. This will only include cities in North America, in the US, Canada, and just across the border in Mexico and the Caribbean. Games in Mexico City, Asia, Australia, Europe, and anywhere else are treated differently. They use different teams every time and aren't played every single year. I suppose Mexico City could host a series every year, but there's no major league team close by, so no team will call Mexico City home. And though it is in the United States, a series in Hawaii would be treated as an international series, likely holding a 2-game season opener in late March with 2 random major league teams. Some of these cities have small populations with small capacity ballparks, but like I said in that previous video, MLB needs to be willing to hold games in front of smaller crowds, an investment that will lead to more fans nationwide, and that will pay off in the end. And for those of you in the Northeast hoping for a Yankees-Red Sox game in your city, Giants-Dodgers in a different California city, or Cubs-Cardinals in Southern Illinois, sorry to tell you it's not going to happen. The rivalries will stay in the home cities. It's one thing to ask the home city to give up a few home games, but you're crossing the line when you ask them to give up one against the rival team. In most cases, you'll get one team visiting annually that will call the city home. The visiting team will be some random team, changing every year. Alright then, let's get started. First, the Seattle Mariners, that lonely team up in the northwest corner all by itself. With that loneliness comes some responsibility, to spread the game to other cities in that large area. They definitely have to go to Portland. Portland is open for an expansion team in the near future. This would be a chance for the city to show MLB there's enough demand there to support a franchise, and to convince their own city government that it's worth it to build a new stadium. One game isn't enough to prove all that, so Portland would push for a whole series to be played there. Vancouver is even closer to Seattle, but there are a lot of Blue Jays fans there, so the best way to do this is to have a 2-game series between the Mariners and Blue Jays, in which each team is the home team one time. That arrangement can always be scrapped later if one team clearly dominates the crowd. The Mariners are the most popular team in Alaska, so they need to travel there too. It's a 3.5-hour flight from Seattle to Anchorage, so if they're going there, they'd want to make it a series. One game in Boise, Idaho, a city with no other major professional sports. There'd be a lot of enthusiasm for a major league game. And like with every team, I'll suggest playing one at their AAA team's ballpark in Tacoma. It'd be great for the residents there to have the big league team there for one night. It is close to Seattle, so people in Tacoma can go see the Mariners in Seattle anytime. But bringing a game to their city would give the Mariners an advantage over the other Seattle sports teams. With 5 teams in California, they won't be as busy as the Mariners, but still several cities that deserve to host a game or two. A San Francisco Giants game in Sacramento would do well. The Giants' AAA team, the River Cats, led the minors in attendance every year from 2000 to 2008, but they've been slipping ever since then. Still a popular team, but they could use a Giants home game to push them back to the top. A Giants home game in San Jose would be sure to attract a lot of attention. It's not necessary to grow the fan base, but I would imagine the locals would have a lot of fun with this. The Oakland A's would definitely want to hold a series in their AAA city, Las Vegas, another city that's trying to get a franchise of its own. It may even be the A's that move there. They can get over 12,000 fans in Las Vegas ballpark, so that would top the attendance of a weekday game in Oakland. The A's low single-A team plays in Stockton, California. It'd be a much smaller crowd than Vegas, but with over 300,000 residents, it's a market the A's would like to try and dominate. The Dodgers would need to travel halfway across the country to play a home game in their AAA park, but they're a popular enough team they'd be able to get the crowd support there. Oklahoma City, home to a team of the same mascot and same uniform as the big league team. The Dodgers AA team is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so they could do a 2-game series, one in Oklahoma City and one in Tulsa. Or you could have a closer team, the Rangers, play a home game in Tulsa. Then you have the state's 2 biggest cities divided, one rooting for the Dodgers and the other rooting for the Rangers, which could be a lot of fun. The Angels AAA team plays in Salt Lake City, and no better place for them to hold a 2-game home series. A 15,000 capacity ballpark, realistic candidate for expansion in the future. With so much competition in California, the Angels should try to make Utah an Angels state. San Diego is right next to Mexico, and they can take full advantage of that. Tijuana is just across the border. They've got a stadium that seats 17,000 and a well-supported team in Toros de Tijuana. A Padres game would be huge there. Another border city is Mexicali, home to a Winter League team that plays in a ballpark seating 20,000. Their AAA team is in El Paso. That would be a home game far from home. Maybe they can aim to dominate the fan base on both sides of the border, from the West Coast all the way to West Texas. Still a couple places in California. The Inland Empire, San Bernardino, Riverside, and some other cities make up the largest metro area without a major sports franchise. Which team would play a home game there is a tough question to answer, since the Dodgers, Angels, and Padres all have low single-A teams there. I guess whichever one of them has an extra date on their schedule. And Fresno, located between LA and the Bay Area, so any of the 5 California teams could play a game there. Although their single-A team, the Grizzlies, are an affiliate of the Rockies, and they're not too far away. It's a city of over 500,000 people. One of those teams would play there. 2 cities for the Diamondbacks. One is Tucson, the second largest city in Arizona. With over 1 million people in the area, it's definitely a market they should take advantage of. It used to host the AAA team for the Diamondbacks and later the Padres. And of course there's the possibility of all the major league teams that compete in the Cactus League playing regular season games in Arizona. The other city for the Diamondbacks is their AAA city, Reno, Nevada. They can cram 10,000 in there for a regular season game. The Rockies, as I mentioned, could play a game at their single-A field in Fresno if none of the California teams are going to. They'd have to play one in Albuquerque, just south of Colorado, no major pro sports teams in the state, and they show a lot of support for the Rockies' AAA team there. North of Colorado are some big, sparsely populated states. We want to try and hit every state, so the Rockies would have some big responsibility here. One game in Wyoming, probably in Cheyenne since it's close to Denver, and one in Montana, any city will do, or on a makeshift ballpark out in the middle of nowhere, similar to the Field of Dreams game. They wouldn't get a large crowd, but it would be so much fun to watch a game like that. A lot of cities around Houston where the Astros could play. The first one that comes to mind is San Antonio. It's actually a AA affiliate of the Padres, but it's right in Houston's backyard, so it makes more sense for the Astros to play there. This is another city with expansion or relocation ambitions, so they'd be sure to make the best of it. Outside of Texas and next door Louisiana, the Astros would have to make a stop in New Orleans. The minor league team may not have lasted there, but a single major league game every summer would be a big event there. And a second stop in Louisiana would be a good idea. Alec Box Stadium, home of the LSU Tigers, can seat over 10,000. It would be a great place for a major league game, and it would be a good way to try and unite the worlds of college and professional baseball. Not done with the Astros yet, they're also the closest team to Monterey. That's a big city with a big stadium and a lot of enthusiasm for baseball. It's really close to the border, and we've already seen that regular season major league games work there. And let's not forget the Astros AAA city, Sugarland, so the suburbs can get some Astros baseball as well. The Texas Rangers' #1 responsibility would be to play at least one game at Dell Diamond, the ballpark for their AAA Round Rock Express. Round Rock is an Austin suburb. We sometimes hear Austin brought up as a city for expansion or relocation, and there's a lot of people and a lot of money going into that area. Just the right place to hold an annual series. I mentioned before that the Rangers could play in Tulsa if the Dodgers don't decide to own all of Oklahoma. Another possibility is Arkansas. There's a minor league field in Little Rock they could use, or there's Baum Stadium in Fayetteville at the University of Arkansas, where they've seen crowds of over 13,000 for a Razorbacks game. Not sure if the Rangers would be the best team to play in Arkansas or the St. Louis Cardinals. And that's the next team I want to talk about. An absolute must for the Cards is to play at their AAA park in Memphis. While the Grizzlies are in their off-season, there's not much going on as far as sports in Memphis. A Cards game every July can be the sports event of the summer. AA Springfield would be another good place to play, a different part of Missouri to make sure the Cardinals brand prevails in all parts of the state. And let's not forget the other team in Missouri, the Kansas City Royals. They'll always own a big chunk of the Missouri fan base, but they would be best off focusing their attention on other nearby states. Of course, they need to play in Omaha. They already got that started in 2019. Now they just need to make it an every-year thing, and make it a 2-game series instead of just one game. The largest city in Kansas, Wichita, has a new ballpark that just opened last year. Seats 12,000, perfect for a weekday Royals game. The Twins have a lot of ground to cover in their area, and the first city that comes to mind is the one right next door. St. Paul is now the home of the Twins' AAA team, so one Twins game needs to be played there. Not really necessary for growing the fan base, St. Paul is already full of Twins fans, but the team is named after the Twin Cities. It would just be wrong to ignore the other twin. In the western part of the state, Moorhead, Minnesota also has a twin, Fargo, North Dakota. Together they have a team in the American Association called the Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks, a team Roger Maris once played for. They share a ballpark with the North Dakota State University team. It could be used for a Twins game, but would need to be expanded. And the Twins are just a few hours from Sioux Falls, South Dakota's largest city. Same story there, American Association team, small ballpark, they could make something work there. The nearest big Canadian city is Winnipeg. Not really near, but they're closer than anyone else. Just like with Seattle playing in Vancouver, this would best be done as a 2-game series with the Blue Jays, one home game for each team. Milwaukee is in the southeast corner of Wisconsin, but no reason why they can't own the whole state. The state capital is Madison, Wisconsin's second largest city, a great college sports town, but the University of Wisconsin is one of the few major colleges without a baseball team. Seems like a place that could use a big baseball event, like a Brewers game. Another city that would be great for a Brewers game is Green Bay, sometime in the summer when football is still a couple months away. There is a baseball field there used by the Green Bay Rockers of the Northwoods League that's expandable to 7,000. Only question is, do they wear the usual Brewers uniforms or have specially made uniforms with the color and design of the Packers? And their biggest home away from home game would be at their AAA city of Nashville, a city that's got high hopes for a major league team of its own. It would be a big event for the city, but I'm not sure how many Brewers fans there are in Nashville. A Cubs game in Des Moines, home of the AAA Iowa Cubs. Over 3 million people in the state, and Des Moines is right in the center. A couple hours drive from almost anywhere in the state. And it's not in the area, but the Cubs might want to try a home game at their 15,000-seat spring training field in Mesa, Arizona. Not much is left for the White Sox in the area, but they'd have a really good AAA city to play in. Charlotte is home to the White Sox AAA team and is a front-runner for Major League expansion, if it ever happens. Actually, if the Sox have nowhere else to play, they could do a whole 3-game series in Charlotte. Make sure everyone there is rooting for the Southsiders, at least until they get a team of their own. The Tigers would have to play at the home of their AAA affiliate, the Toledo Mud Hens. It's in Ohio, but closer to Detroit than the two Ohio teams. With a ballpark seating over 10,000, they can provide a decent weekday crowd. And since Detroit is all the way east in Michigan, it makes sense to play one on the western end. Grand Rapids is the second largest metro in Michigan with over 1 million people, home to the Tigers' high single-A team. The Guardians can't claim all of Ohio, but since their AAA team is in Columbus, they can hold a series in the capital and largest city, right in the middle of the state. Columbus is big enough to support a Major League franchise, but will never be considered since it lies right between the two other Major League cities in Ohio. But at least for 1 or 2 nights, Columbus can be a Major League city. The Reds won't get the capital, but they've got some good options of their own. One is their AAA city, Louisville. Big town, nice ballpark, close to Cincinnati. A Reds game in Louisville should have been done by now. Dayton is another city they could play in. That's where their high single-A team plays. Very close to Cincinnati. Seats under 10,000, but a game there would be something different at the start or end of a series in Cincinnati. The Pittsburgh Pirates would have to travel 2 states away to play a home game in their AAA park, but it would be worth it. It'd be a sure sellout of over 14,000 at Victory Field, but they'd have to be careful who they schedule as an opponent, not one of the other NL Central teams, especially not the Cubs or Reds. Play some far-away team and they can enjoy the home crowd advantage. They'd also like to play one in western Pennsylvania. Erie looks like the best option, but they may have some competition there. Erie is closer to Cleveland than Pittsburgh, and it's the AA affiliate of the Tigers. And if any team's going to hold a game in West Virginia, it's got to be the Pirates. The best place for that is probably Appalachian Power Park in Charleston. The crowd wouldn't be so big, but whatever they can do to gain more Pirates fans will be worth it. Okay, running through the East Coast now, to the top from the very bottom. The Marlins don't do so well with attendance in Miami, but when they played as the home team at Hiram Batorn Stadium in Puerto Rico in the past, it was a sellout every time. That's why the series in San Juan should be held annually, and the Marlins, as the closest team, should pay a visit every summer and try to become the favorite team on the island. While they're at it, they can do the very same thing in Santo Domingo. I'd make it a 4-game series, Thursday, Friday in San Juan, Saturday, Sunday in Santo Domingo. And yes, if things change in the future, Havana could be included too, but for now I won't include it. Plenty of work the Marlins can do in Florida too. Their AAA team plays in Jacksonville, in a stadium that seats 11,000. This could help to build a Marlins fan base in northern Florida, where people normally follow the Braves, Rays, or just don't follow baseball at all. The Florida Panhandle is another place where they can find new fans. Pensacola is home to the Marlins AA team, and there's 500,000 people in that area. Also fighting for fans in Florida is the Tampa Bay Rays. They've already tried this once with a Rays home series in the Orlando area in 2007 and 2008. It was a success that was never repeated. Until they get a new stadium built, they're going to struggle with attendance at home. Might as well make another attempt at the Orlando market. And like every team, the Rays will have to play one in their AAA park. Their team is the Durham Bulls. This would not only be big for the Raleigh-Durham area, which could one day support a team of its own, but it reminds MLB fans everywhere of the movie that made this minor league team famous. The Braves are the most popular team in the Southeast, so there's a lot of demand. Of course, one game would be played at the park of their AAA affiliate in Gwinnett County. They can get a nice crowd of over 10,000 there. And they'd have a few other states to visit. South Carolina is one. Columbia is probably the best city, right in the middle of the state between Greenville and Charleston. One game in Alabama, and I'm not exactly sure where. Birmingham is the AA affiliate of the White Sox. Montgomery has the AA team for the Rays. It makes more sense to have a Braves game there. I guess in Birmingham since it's the biggest. Neighboring Mississippi gets a Braves game too. In Starksville, the field used by Mississippi State University holds the record for on-campus single-game attendance at over 15,000. The Washington Nationals would really have to do some traveling to play a home game at their AAA park. That's located in Rochester, New York. May not be too many Nationals fans there, but the fans who support the Rochester Red Wings deserve to see the big league team in their own city. A much closer home-away-from-home game would be in Richmond, Virginia, home to the Richmond Flying Squirrels, the AA team for the San Francisco Giants. Makes more sense for the Nationals to call Richmond home for a day. And the Nationals would be tasked with holding a regular season game in Delaware. This could be done by the Orioles or Phillies too, but since the state's largest city, Wilmington, is home to the Nationals' high single-A team, it would be their responsibility. The Baltimore Orioles would play at least one game at Harbor Park in Norfolk, home to their AAA affiliate, the Norfolk Tides. They've been wanting Major League Baseball in Norfolk. About 20 years ago, the city tried to get the Expos to move there, but they ended up going to Washington instead. The further north we go on the East Coast, the more crowded it gets and fan bases start to overlap. Gotta be careful here. The first priority for the Philadelphia Phillies would be to have one game at AAA Allentown, home to the Iron Pigs. They would have to play one game in New Jersey. Their high single-A affiliate is the Jersey Shore Blue Claws in Lakewood, New Jersey, so I guess that would be the place. Then we come to the New York teams. Yankees first. PNC Field, home to the Yankees' AAA's Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders in Pennsylvania, is the obvious choice. Their AA site would be a good one too, in Somerset County, New Jersey. Hartford, Connecticut is a battleground for Yankees and Red Sox fans. It appears that the Yankees have a slight advantage in the number of fans, so they win the right to hold a game there. But the situation there should be monitored closely. If it flips to a Red Sox majority at any time, they can change teams. The Mets AAA team is in Syracuse, and that would be a great place to have a Mets game. That would make the Mets one of 3 teams to claim a city in upstate New York. The Boston Red Sox, their AAA park is just 45 minutes from Fenway, but a Red Sox game at Polar Park in Wester is something fans would like to see. And it would be good for them to visit their AA field in Portland, Maine. Hadlock Field in Portland even has a replica of the Green Monster, called the Maine Monster. Providence, Rhode Island, if they could find a field to play on. For the occasion, it would be great if they donned the old Providence Grays uniforms, a team that was part of the National League in the 1800s, and later a minor league team that Babe Ruth played for. And if we're determined to play an MLB game in every single state, the Red Sox are the team for New Hampshire and Vermont. Games in both states would be played at small venues, but they'd surely be full of cheering Red Sox fans. That leaves Canada's team, the Toronto Blue Jays. Their job is to make the Blue Jays as big in every major Canadian city as they are in Toronto. I've already said they could hold a series in Vancouver with the Mariners, and one in Winnipeg with the Twins. Calgary and/or Edmonton would be necessary, and since there are no major league cities even remotely nearby, this would be entirely the Blue Jays' responsibility. They'd probably only play in one of those cities, and Calgary would be the better choice. No doubt they'd play one in Montreal, a regular season game this time, not an exhibition. One elsewhere in Ontario, probably Ottawa. They've got a ballpark there that seats over 10,000. And one across the border at their AAA park, Salem Field in Buffalo. We've already seen that the field works for hosting major league games, hosting 49 Blue Jays games in the past 2 years. Might as well keep it going with an annual Blue Jays series in Buffalo. If you were keeping count, that's 77 places major league teams could call home for a day. 49 states covered. Throw in a season opener in Hawaii and you've got all 50. That's out of 2,430 major league games played every summer. Still plenty of games to play at their usual home stadium. Anyway, that's all for this one. Until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya.